of a fenny snake in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and owlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Greetings. If you haven't guessed, today we're talking about witches. B is for brew. This is the second in the 2018 challenge for the YouTube Pagan challenge on Facebook group. That's supposed to be for January, but I'm a little late. Anyway, today we're talking about brews. Brew. Brew is a word that's very interchangeable with other words. A lot of people think brews and potions. When you think of brews, you think of potions, you think of charms, you think of all kinds of things. In my world, where I like to categorize things, I like to organize in my thoughts. To me, a brew is something ingested. This is not the definition that other people use. A lot of people think some brews can be applied to the skin, etc. Some brews can be like charms, can be brews. Anything you make, anything in which makes could be called a brew. Well, that's really true. But in my world, a witch's brew, a brew is something that is taken internally. Okay? A witch's potion is something that can be applied topically, like an oil or a powder or anything like that. So this is the way I differentiate them in my mind. It's just in my mind, don't have to go there. But for this purpose, today we're talking about brews that you ingest. And basically when I talk about brews that you ingest, I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about teas or tisanes, which we'll talk about in a minute, or I talk about tinctures. And we're all familiar as witches with both teas and tinctures. But you don't have to be a witch. You don't have to be a witch to know anything about them. But in the traditional definition of the witch, in the village, was the old woman or wise, it was a wise man or a wise woman who lived in the village, who had all the knowledge of the herbs and the flowers and the plants that could heal, that could enchant, right? The quote that I just opened this video with was, I'm sure you're familiar with it, it was from Shakespeare's Macbeth. It was part of the speech of the second witch in the opening of Act 1 of Macbeth. When she talks about, when they're talking about all of the things that they're going to put into their brew. To be clear though, many of the things, if not all of the things that they are listing for the brew are what we know as today by other names. For instance, a lizard's leg is actually tarragon. It's another name for tarragon. Eye of newt, mustard seed. So they're not so unusual. But remember, witches were, or the wise woman or man, if you want to call them that, were, their recipes were secret. So sometimes having another name for their item, for their ingredient, was a way of keeping their recipe secret. I don't know. But anyway, you don't have to be a witch to understand and want to use and understand the magic, really, of herbs and flowers. And that's just what I want to talk to you about today, some different ways that you can use them. I want to say out front, I am not a doctor, I am not a health professional, I'm not an expert in the field. Please do not quote me, please do not do anything that I do without doing your own research, okay? You want to do your own research because it's really, really important. A lot of the ingredients that you already have in your cupboard are things that you can also use for teas or tinctures. But a lot of the ingredients that you already have in your cupboard that you might use for making incenses or other kinds of charms, making sachets or whatever, or some kind of talisman, are toxic if you take them internally. So do not think just because you can buy it and you can burn it in an incense, or you can buy it and you can it's readily available to you, does not mean that it's good to use and to take internally. Likewise, and we're going to see a couple examples of this, just because something might be safe for one kind of person does not make it safe for another kind of person. You have to understand the physiology of each person and the effects the herb or flower or plant has on that certain physiology. Sometimes where it's very safe for some kind of people, it's very not safe for other kind of people. So please do your research. We're very fortunate. Lots of resources available. I have a whole entire shelf in my witch's cupboard on using herbs and making tinctures and potions and teas and things. And I also have a shelf that is not geared toward the pagan or the witch. It's geared toward just the person who wants to be healthy, who wants to save some money, or wants to avoid some of the really strong pharmaceuticals that have a lot of side effects that are really dangerous, etc. Not to mention the high cost. This is a really good way to treat common ailments and common conditions in a cost-efficient way. And we're very, very fortunate today. If you do not grow your own herbs or flowers, we have a lot of really good resources for them. I want to say, if you're going to make anything that you're going to ingest, it is imperative that you use organic herbs or flowers. You do not want to, you remember, things that are sprayed, like if you want to take, let's say, an orange is a good example. My oranges come from my trees. My lemons and limes come from my own trees. And my grapefruits, they are totally organic. But if you go and buy them in the store, you have to look and see if they're organic or not. Now, if you're going to take the peel and you're going to just eat the orange inside, it's not so bad. But when we're talking about making teas and tinctures, we're really going to be using the peel, the zest, or the peel of the orange. And this is one of the fruits. Citrus fruits particularly are ones that if they spray them, it's sort of a porous kind of a skin, and I think the spray can permeate into the skin in a way, into the peel in a way that's really hard to get it out. So I don't think I would be using peel or zest of an orange to take medically that has been sprayed. Particularly when we're talking about tinctures, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but when we talk about tinctures, you're getting the very nature of making the tincture is drawing out things from the orange or from the whatever, let's say an orange or a lemon peel, in a way that is not really the way it is drawn out if you're just using it in baking. If you're doing a little bit of zesting and your orange is clean, it's probably fine. But if you're going to make a tincture out of it, you really are going to magnify the intensity of whatever is in the peel, if that makes any kind of sense. So you really want to use organic in that instance. Fortunately, we're very lucky that we can find organic things locally all the time. I think most people can. And if you cannot, just simply going on Amazon, you have a really good resource. A lot of us know, like a lot of us have places nearby. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to put my glasses on. I'm very fortunate that I have a local pagan shop that sells this is actually a tea blend, but they sell all kinds of herbs and things, and they tell you up front what is organic and what is not. That's a local thing, and we all know about mountain rose herbs. Mountain rose herbs, which they're very, very reasonably priced. They have a great selection of organic, certified organic, what it is you're looking for. So we all have access to that, don't we? Okay. So anyway, I want to get on with my spiel here. I'm going to be probably editing a little bit here because I have to, as you can see, I've cut quite a lot of stuff here, and in order to bring it and show you what I'm doing, I'm going to need to clear some of this stuff away. But first I just want to start and talk about teas. Now we're going to talk about teas first, and the difference between a tea, again, and a, in my mind, and a tincture really, is a tea is usually water-based. It is water-based. It is usually a combination of herbs or flowers or plant material, whatever, with water, infused with water, and meant to be pretty much meant to be drunk right away. Okay, where a tincture is something that you're going to use in an alcohol base or a vinegar base, and it's going to have to brew or steep for a lot longer. We're talking about a matter of weeks. Okay, so that's one difference. When we talk about teas, there's all different kinds of teas. There are black teas and green teas, we all know those, and we have a lot of, there's some that are really good and some that are not so good. And we can buy, like I said, here's some blends already from Dragon Marsh. This is really good tasting. Both of these are blends based on black tea. This one is based on chamomile. This is an herbal, what they call an herbal tea. And here again, okay, that's just a sample of an herb. That's just meant to use on its own, probably for a tincture, okay? But anyway, what I want to say about this, if it is a green tea, black tea, white tea, oolong tea, those kind of teas, those are really teas, because that is from a plant that is a tea. It's a tea plant. If we talk about anything else, like we talk about chamomile tea or mint tea or, peppermint tea, whatever, those aren't really teas. Technically, those are called tisanes, which just means they're made from something other than a tea plant, another kind of flower. And usually a tea or tisane is made from the leaf or flower. If they're made from the leaf or flower, that is technically an infusion. If it's made from something harder, something like the root, like dandelion root or seeds, then it is technically a decoction. But altogether, we can call them tisanes, technically, or we can call them, just because commonly we know them as herbal teas. But just so you understand that herbal tea is not really, it's technically, I'm going to say teas, herbal tea, but technically it's a tisane, okay? Enough said. Okay, when we talk about tinctures, again, we're talking about alcohol. We're using alcohol to draw the benefit out of the herb or flower or whatever it is, or seed or whatever it is, or we're using something like a vinegar. And again, if we're going to use alcohol, we generally using vodka. Sometimes some people say you have to use 100 proof or whatever. Here we have, I don't know what our alcohol is. I use vodka the gods, 80 proof, and that's just what I get from Trader Joe's. This is my go-to vodka. It's just a reasonably priced, good quality vodka. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. We're using that a little bit later when we get to the tinctures. But you can also use a vinegar, and it doesn't have to be apple cider vinegar, but you did again want a raw vinegar. This is a raw unfiltered vinegar. This is Bragg, which is a very, very good quality vinegar. Okay, again, you don't want to just put, distilled vinegar, which is really not vinegar, which we won't go there. Okay, now all teas are not created equal. I do want to say, clearly, the good man and I, my husband and I, do drink tea all the time. This is our pot. You're going to see a little bit more of that in a minute. We have a different pot. We usually do 1 or 2 pots. We make it by the pot because there's 2 of us. We make our go-to everyday tea is black tea. We drink 1 or 2 pots in the morning, we drink 1 or 2 pots in the evening, and usually during the course of the day, we drink iced tea, and it's usually black. Our go-to is black iced tea. Very, very simple. We're very simple. But I really do love other kind of teas, and we do use other kind of teas, you know, for their properties. And really now we're really trying to get into more and more teas because we're trying to be as self-sufficient as we can, and we're growing more herbs and growing more flowers. So it makes sense to use those rather than just be buying tea bags all the time. But I do want to point out, when you get tea, to take a look at what is in the tea. Now these are lovely, and also I wanted to show you this. When you buy tea, I don't think you can see this. You probably cannot see this, but these bags of tea are just chewed and chewed up at the top of the corners here. My cats are determined to get into these teas. This is Tivana. This is a nice, it's a nice tea. I got, this is a gift, part of a gift that I got. And this is just a English breakfast black tea, and this is the mango black tea. And this, when we talk about what is in this, I'm not even sure. If it even says, I would have to go on their website, but always looking to see what is in your tea, because here, I want to say, even Dragon March, which is lovely, and don't get me wrong, it's a lovely store, they're talking about, this is a blackberry sage tea blend, and it contains black tea leaves, blackberries, and natural flavor. What is natural flavor? I'm not sure what natural flavor is. And here is the strawberry raspberry tea blend. Contains black tea and natural fruit flavors. It does not say it contains strawberry fruit or raspberry fruit or strawberry or raspberry leaf. It just says flavor. So we're not sure. So again, if you're drinking this for taste, this is perfectly fine. But if you're drinking this for performance, if you're drinking this because of the effect that you want from either the strawberry or raspberry leaf or fruit or flower, whatever, you're not going to get it because this is just the flavor. So this is just, these kind of things are just for the taste, okay? And that's what we're talking about today. We're not talking about that. Here's an afternoon delight tea. This has cinnamon, chamomile, peppermint, and licorice. Okay, this is probably very much so what it says. And I can look in here and I can see pieces of cinnamon bark that are in here. I can see chamomile flower. I can see peppermint leaf. Okay, I can see these things in the little bag. So I'm pretty sure that this is exactly what it says. So something like this, if I want to use this for intent, this is probably good. Okay, this is probably good. So just get used to reading them. Okay. I'm going to give these a toss. Out of my way. Excuse me, very fortunate to have that table there. Okay, I'm going to do a few things for you. I'm going to say, now, you don't have to have a lot of equipment. It looks like I have a big table with a lot of equipment. You do not need to have equipment to make tea. Everybody knows that, okay? It can be just as simple as anything. Now, what if I want to just make, here's a tea box that I happen to have, that I carry with me. And a lot of things are in here that people have given me. So some are so good and some are not. And here I have, just because this is what we take camping, here's some green tea bags, okay? Green tea bags. I've got little boxes of tea in here that people have gifted me. I have some yogi tea. Here's chamomile. I've got some Tazo English breakfast. I've got a lot of different kinds of teas in here. But one thing I want to say, if I look at something like a Lipton green tea, it says pure green tea, so it's probably really pure. But it might not be exactly the flavor that you're going for. Okay, so what can you do about that? Well, one thing you can do about that is, I'm taking let's say I take a cup and I want to make my tea, and I'll put my tea bag in the cup, right, boil my water. And then I can also do things like add, here this is called a tea ball. And I can open up my tea ball, And I can add some things in here that I would like to have. I can add some zest of an orange, I can add some ginger, dried ginger, or peppermint, or whatever things that I want to have, maybe some chamomile. Lemongrass is really good with green tea. One of my favorite kinds of green tea has lemongrass in it. So I might take some lemongrass and put it in here. I don't have to put it in here, but this just makes it much easier, doesn't it? And then I can add the tea ball to my cup. I can heat my water, and then I can just let it steep as long as I want to be. So I can do this by the cup, very simply, right? By the cup. Now, if you want to have, you could also just throw the tea leaves in your cup, and you could just, let them settle on the bottom of your cup, and not worry about them. But most people do not like the tea leaves coming up. So this I thought was a really good way to add things. Now, if I didn't want to use the green tea, of course I could just build whatever kind of tea I wanted in the tea bowl. Okay. So anyway, that's just one little gadget that I have that you might want. Oh, also, there's a lot of, this is a gift, another gift I got, of tea. And again, it says Earl Grey Cream, which it smells wonderful, but it says flavored black tea. Flavored black tea. So it's a black tea. I'm not sure what it is. Chivana, I could go on their website and see what it contains, what ingredients it contains. But again, these kind of teas are meant for just enjoying the taste of the tea. Okay, we're not going to use these for health benefits, any health benefits. Okay, I'm going to put this aside because I am going to be using this in a minute. Oh, I might just keep it here. Let me put this down here. Okay. So, one of the gadgets, oh, okay, another thing I want to say, there is something that looks like this. This is actually a coffee press. This is what my husband makes coffee in all the time. And you've seen this. You put your coffee grounds in, I'm not even sure I don't drink coffee, but you put your coffee grounds in your water in here. You put this on, put it just on top and let it steep with your hot water. And then you push this down. When it's done steeping, you push that down on top of the coffee grounds, and then they stay underneath this filter, and then you can pour out without the coffee grounds getting into your cup. I think you can use this for tea, but I think there's a special one that is made for tea that has an additional filter up here at the top to make sure that you don't get any tea leaves. But when I'm looking at this, I don't know how tea leaves could even, any kind of little leaf of anything could get through there. So I'm not sure if it was necessary. But for me, I've had the experience when things are used for coffee, we only use them for coffee. We do not use it for anything else because it's hard to get the coffee smell or flavor out of it. It just smells, I can smell it, it smells like coffee. Yeah. This filter smells like coffee, so then my tea is going to smell like coffee. And that's not the idea of drinking tea, is it? So anyway, it could be used. But anyway, we don't need to use this because there's this cool thing that I got, which I love so much. And this is an Ingenuity, let me get the book, the box. This is an Ingenuity, the Ingenuous teapot it's called, but I'm sure this is, it's put out by Adagio Teas. There's a couple other brands that are the same kind of a thing, but this is a wonderful gadget for brewing tea, and I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to get my water hot, and then I'm going to make some teas here and show you how they work. So I'm going to cut here just for a second. Okay, I'm back. I neglected to mention when I dry my herbs or things, I tend to use a dehydrator if I have a lot of things. I have a dehydrator that I use for stuff in my garden that I want to dry all the time. You don't have to have it. You can dry things in the oven. You can dry things in, just spread out on a screen or put on a paper towel in your home and just, keep turning them, keep stirring them. Something like this mint. I didn't have any mint from my garden to dry, so I did this much mint yesterday. Represents about what you get from one little, the little plastic packages of mint. That's pretty expensive. I think it was, $2.99 for that. If you buy it in bulk, it's so much cheaper. Of course, if you grow it your own, so much cheaper. Mint is something very easy to grow. It kind of takes over the world. I also dried some ginger, fresh ginger. I just sliced it really thin and then put it in the dehydrator. And I'm going to just chop it up a little bit. If you do things small, the smaller your pieces are, the smaller pieces are, the more flavor they release. Anyway, it only took a couple hours for this to dry in my dehydrator. I think in the oven, on a low oven, it would probably be the same. But anyway, it just smells so good. Woo-hoo. Anyway, I neglected to show you some other things that I got as a gift. I have two of them. This is a large teacup. Has a lid, and you put your herbs. It's very cool. It has a little ceramic insert. You can also buy things like this that are wire, but this is nice because you put your herbs in there and you pour your water in there and you let it steep, cover it, let it steep, and then before you drink it, you take it out, and you don't have to worry about the herbs. Also, here's a little one, which I really love. Little birds, same kind of a thing. Little ceramic thing. So those are little precious gifts that I've gotten. But anyway, I wanted to show you a couple hot brews real quick. First of all, I'm going to do something using the pot, show you how this works. I just heated my water in my kettle here. This can be done in the microwave. I've seen people do it, putting the water in here, putting the herbs in here, and putting it in the microwave. This is microwave safe and dishwasher safe, but that's not my thing, so I'm going to use water from a kettle. But it makes sense if you like to use, especially if you're trying to do it at work or something like that. We might have a kettle. That's a wonderful. One of these things is really wonderful a good investment if you want to make different kind of teas. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to put the dried ginger that I just chopped up, and I'm putting it in here. Peppermint or mint, most of the mint is called as peppermint. I'm going to put a little honey in it. You don't have to. I don't normally drink. In hot tea, I usually drink a little bit of sweetener, but not always. I usually use, in this pot, we use a half of one of these spoons, half of this, a scant half, not even a half, a third or quarter per pot. That's how much sugar we use raw sugar in that. But I'm going to just, for fun, I'm going to put a little honey in here. So I have my ginger, I have my peppermint, some honey, and I'm going to put some hibiscus flower. Dried hibiscus flower. Okay, so I just put that in there. I just want to show you this is the slickest thing you've ever seen. How this works. And again, this is organic. I got that from hibiscus. I get from my yard, but this I believe I got from mountain rose herbs. Okay, so I just pour some water in here. I won't fill it full because I'm just making 1 cup. I'm going to let that steep a little bit. And while that's steeping, I'm going to show you something else. I don't know who that is. It just walked into my kitchen. I'm going to make something in my pot, in the pot that we normally make our regular black tea in, okay? So, on this one, I'm going to use some of these chamomile flowers. So, I'm just going to throw some chamomile flowers in here, like about 3 pinches. Chamomile is very relaxing. It's a wonderful kind of a tea to drink at night. I have some stinging nettle leaf, which are not going to sting me because they have been dried. So once they're dried or cooked, they do not any longer sting. But I'm going to put maybe 2, how many tablespoons in there? Maybe a little more. I hear the sounds of something. I'm not sure what that is. Sounds like wine being poured. Must be that time. Again, some of the peppermint that I put, I'm going to put that all in there. Peppermint is a wonderful, oh, I want to say this too. Wait, first I'm going to put the rose. You know, this is what I do with roses. I told you, my friend has roses, my neighbor has roses, I have some roses. When I'm given roses, well, I know it from organic source, no spraying. I just, when they're spent, when they're starting to fail, the heads come off and they just go in a bowl like this in my house. And then I let them dry. And once they dry, I pull the petals off, compost this, and use them in all kinds of things. Oh, I use rose all the time in incense. So I'm going to put some rose petals in here. I have a combination of colors. Rose has such wonderful properties. Again, I don't want to go into too many properties here because I don't want to recommend something that you're going to ingest. I don't think that's really good. I don't think that's what I want to do. Like if this were incense, I wouldn't have any problems. But you will find that many of the magical properties are also very similar, like in their magical. You know, magical, whether you put them in a tea or whether you put them in an incense, I want to say. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bit of lavender flower. Lavender flower is one of the flavors that you find in Earl Grey tea, which I am not a fan of. But that's one tea I really don't like, but that's also bergamot is in there as well. So I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to try experimenting in the future with just adding a little bit of lavender to my tea and see what happens, if it tastes more like Earl Grey without that funny smell. But anyway, lavender is something you have to be really, it's wonderful, it has wonderful properties, but you have to be so careful. You don't want to use too much. You use too much, it's bad. It's bad. I cook with it a lot too, but just a little bit. Okay, so I have chamomile, I have nettles, stinging nettles, peppermint, rose, and lavender, and I'm going to add water to this. I'm going to let this, then I'm going to let it steep a little bit. I'm not going to add any sugar or honey to that because I want to see I'm going to taste it first to see if it needs it, okay? Alright, so now this one is just about, as you can see, the other thing I love about this, look, you can see when you're looking at it how, you know, this is how I define if I think it's done or not, by the color. And I can start to see the color. If it's getting dark, you know, if I think it's brewed enough, if it is steeped enough. Okay, so just gonna, I think I could do that one. Then I can move these things out of the way. This is the cool thing about this. I'm ready to show you this one. Well, that steeps a little more. I just have it here on a coaster. It comes with a coaster. Like, it's afraid it's gonna, like you're afraid it's gonna drip, but it really does not drip. This is, you'll watch this, it's magic. There's some kind of a thing on the bottom. It operates on gravity. That is the, you know, right now it's sealed, but all I have to do is put it on top. I don't know if you can see, I hope you can see. I'm gonna put it on top of my cup here. Just set it there, and you're gonna see this go down. It's gonna go right into the cup. Did you see that happening? Isn't that the coolest thing? And I pick it up. It doesn't leak at all. It leaves all of the stuff in there. Now the cool thing about herbal tea is I can do this again. I could have filled it up, by the way. If I was going to make 2 cups, I could have filled it up, by the way. Most of the way just about fills this cup. But I can reuse these same herbs, like pour another thing of water in there and reuse them, and it's still good for at least 1 or 2. You can't see the color of the tea, so I'm going to pour it into here so you can see. But look at that lovely tea it made. See the beautiful color? A lot of the color comes from the hibiscus. And we'll see. Oh, what a lovely flavor. What a lovely flavor. That needs nothing more. I can taste the peppermint. Ginger is just nice and light, not too gingery, not too hot with the ginger. The hibiscus is just a lovely flavor. The good man's going to like that one. I think I'm going to put that aside for him. Okay. And I will put this aside because I can use this again. And just give me 1 minute here. Shall I regroup? Okay, I'm back, and the good man is here with me, who has volunteered to tell me what he thinks about the tea that we just made. The, what is it? The ginger, peppermint, and hibiscus flower tea with a little bit of honey. You want to taste that and see what it's...
I do.
Look at the pretty color. The pretty color comes from the,
it's
from
beautiful.
the flower.
It's beautiful. It smells great.
Yeah, it smells great.
Oh, that's really
What
good.
do you taste? See, I think the ginger is really lovely.
Yeah, the ginger is fabulous.
Okay, and then I can also say that you want to stay here and taste this one too. You want to. What do you do if you don't have one of those fancy contraptions? It works so wonderfully. Remember, I made it just in our regular pot, and I think we're ready to try this. If you don't have something to filter it out, you can use something as crude as some kind of thing like this, or you can buy a little strainer. Get a little strainer that just fits your teacup. They're not expensive at all, and then you can.
They're very fine too.
They're very fine, so they catch all of the stuff. Now this I don't have any sweetener in it at all, but look at that. Oh, I can smell it as it's coming out. Could you smell that? This.
Oh, yeah.
This is. Okay, I'll tell you what it is first.
Okay.
This is it's a chamomile tea. It has stinging nettles and peppermint, rose, and a little bit of lavender flower in it. So this is relaxing, but you know, stinging nettles, I do want to say, I don't want to talk too much about the properties. I don't want to try to come off like I know anything about medical properties, but stinging nettles is a wonderful, it helps you with your arthritis and
Good.
and any kind of inflammatory issues. So it's, and it also boosts your immunity a lot too. So it's a really good, strong.
Smells good.
Okay, you want to see what you think about
Yep.
that? Is it hot?
It's
I
hot.
burned his mouth off. Sorry.
Oh, that tastes delicious.
Do you like that? Which one do you like better?
Eh,
Yeah, let me taste that one.
tastes good.
Which one do you like better?
I don't know.
I love the smell of this one a lot.
Well, I don't know. They're both
Okay, they're
delicious.
different. They're
They're
both
so different.
This one has no sweetness to
Yeah.
it. You could, if you
Right.
chose, you could put a little bit of honey into it. But
This is
I kind of
just-
like this
This
one.
is just lightly sweetened. It's nice. Beautiful. I like them both.
Okay, we'll just leave those there,
Okay.
and I'll continue on my quest. There's still a lot more tea in here. I just am showing them all the different ways of we can make some. So let me put the pot over here.
Then I'll bugger off.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so, the next one that I just have a couple more that I want to show you really quickly, because sometimes, you don't have to have a teapot. And I thought this was so cute. I saw Jamie Oliver doing this, and I love Jamie Oliver, so. But he said he likes to use jars like this for a teapot, because that way you can again see the color, it's clear, so you can see, you know, the color, if that's important to you, but it, you know, make sure that you're brewing it long enough to be the strength you want it to be. But also, when whatever's left over, or maybe the whole thing, he just then closes this up and puts it in the refrigerator, because he likes to use some of these as iced tea, for an iced tea blend. And you know, I told you we drink iced black tea, just unsweetened black tea, all day long. That's like our go-to drink. And but this would be a wonderful one. I'd like to try, especially this summer, try out some of these flavors. So I'm going to try one of these. This is something that he used very simply. And again, I have my hot water. I'm just going to try to get the water back up to temperature. In my little pot there. And to actually what I'm using, I'm going to be cutting, this is if you're not sure what this is turmeric root. Turmeric, everybody knows what that is. It's that orange powder that is a lot, usually pickles and things like that, but it has a lot of really very healthy properties. Wonderful properties. It's a very, very good source of iron. And women in particular, they need iron all the time. We lose iron. Or women who are still menstruating lose iron every month. So he makes a tea, and he's going to he says just slice up the root just like this. We're not even going to peel it or anything like we would peel a ginger root. We're just going to slice it up. And I'm using a little board instead of just slicing on my table here, because this could dye my it could dye my fingers. So I'm just going to slice thin slices of this, and put it in my jar. Okay, and then he takes citrus. You can take any kind of citrus you want. I have oranges, lemons, and lime from my tree. I'm going to do an orange. I think I'll do a little orange. And what he did was just cut a piece, and then he got some zest off of it, some peel, and he took the peel separately so that so it really works really good in the tea right away. And then he's going to add some of that orange back to it. I'll put that in here. I forgot to tell you, I wanted to add that whatever you do not use, or once you do take it out of, you know, all of your little bits that you take out after you strain them out of your tea, that you can compost that stuff. You know, after you're finished, how many times you want to brew it, you can compost it. Okay, so anyway, I have my turmeric, I have my citrus. He put some honey in here. This is very, very simple. He likes to add some honey. Nice and sweet. And then he just takes some sprigs of thyme, a little bit of thyme. This is fresh from my garden. And I'm just throwing the thyme right in, stems and all. And then we're going to just add water to that. Okay. So while I'm doing that, I have one more to do. Stay with me. And this is another tea. This is going to be a tea that we brew in a saucepan. We do not have to have a teapot. We do not have to jar. We can do it right directly into a saucepan. I'm going to get the saucepan. And here we go. I already have 3 cups of water in here. I'm going to add 3 more cups for a total of 6 cups of water. And then I've got some lemongrass here. I'm just going to use a mallet and really just smash it up. Lemongrass it's very tough and fibrous, so it has to be, so to release the flavor, I'm just going to smash it up and put it in here. Just opens it up. And look how beautiful that is. Isn't that beautiful? And we're just going to close it. I'm going to allow that to cool a little bit here while I'm talking, and then once it cools down we can taste it, and then we can also put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to give it a little bit of stir because I put some. Honey. More honey. Okay. And while I'm at it, I'm going to just throw in the rest of this orange. Because I think it's just going to add more flavor. So there we go. Okay. Now I thought I had to cut because I thought I had to go get some sugar, but I have rock sugar here, which will be really delicious. So I'm just going to put in I want about a quarter of a cup, or half a cup of sugar. That seems like a lot, but, so, there's a quarter cup. This is a scant amount. Okay. So I have that, and then I have my tea bags. I've got 2 green tea bags here. Remember, it's just pure green tea. This was the Lipton tea that was in my work kit. Oh no, first I'm going to bring this to boil. I'm going to add a little more. I want to add a little more of this lemongrass. And I'm going to bring this to a boil first. Before I add my tea, I'm going to bring it to a boil on the stove. There we go. Let me be right back. Okay, I'm going to bring that to a boil, and then I'm going to simmer it for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to add my tea bags and simmer it a little bit longer, and then I'm going to add some lime juice, okay? So that's the lemongrass tea. Okay, and meanwhile, this is steeping. Now we're not going to get much color from this, remember, because this is just orange. It's just oranges and it's thyme and it's turmeric, so it's really not going to give a lot of color, but it's going to give a lot of flavor. Okay, so that's what's important, is the flavor. I'm going to cut one more time here because I want to go and get a few things. We're going to talk just a few minutes about tinctures, and then I'm going to let you go, so just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back again. It just occurred to me that you don't even know when I'm gone, so I'm not sure why I tell you that I was gone. I just have this feeling I need to confess to you. And the last thing that we're going to talk about are tinctures rather briefly, because tinctures, other than tea, one difference between a tea and a tisane and a tincture is a tea or a tisane can be made just for pleasure. It can be made for, just because you love the taste of chamomile, you love the taste of mint or whatever, love the taste of green tea. A tincture is made for a purpose. It is a brew that is brewed for a purpose, or you want a reaction either to alleviate a cough or congestion, or to build up your immune system, or to aid sleep, maybe cure insomnia, maybe aid you in weight loss by stimulating your metabolism, those kind of things. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to recommend anything to you. I want you to do your homework, I want you to do your own research, get yourself a good book, or look online and at a reputable source and do your homework, to see. But other than that, another way to do it is if you know something is safe to ingest. Okay, we know chamomile is safe to ingest. Chamomile is meant to be a relaxant. Everybody knows that's a very, they sell chamomile tea all the time, meant to relax you, help you to go to sleep, unwind at the end of the day, relieve your stress, put you in a good quiet mood so you can go to sleep. Then it works like that for a lot of people. But you won't know until you use it for yourself if that's what it does for you. So when I'm talking about making a tincture, even though we did a lot of herbal blends, we're making teas and tisanes, I recommend that when you're making a tincture, you only use one herb or flower, only one. Because first of all, you want to see what effect it has on you. Make it in a small amount first before you make a lot of it, right? Excuse me. Because it might not work for you, just like you don't like, like I was talking in my video about stones. Black obsidian works in a certain way for me, amber works in a certain way for me, sodalite works in a certain way for me. They're some of my favorite stones. I use them all the time. They might do nothing for you. It doesn't do you any good to follow my recipes and to do my things if it's not going to give you the effect you want. If you don't like the taste or it doesn't relax you or whatever. Okay? So, but when you're making a tincture, you're making it for a purpose. This is for a purpose. This is when you're getting your witch on, baby. You're really getting your witch on because it's going to be a commitment. You're going to make it and you're going to commit to weeks, maybe months before you get to even try it. Okay? So, I usually make it in small amounts, but I have been known to make it in large amounts for certain things. When I made my nettles, tincture of nettles, stinging nettles, I can only get nettles certain times of the year. When nettles are in season, they're in season and they're plentiful. As soon as they're done, and you don't get them again for another year. So I use a big jar, when I want to make a tincture. Or I make, I use it for a lot of things. Or I dry the nettle leaf for another time. Okay, now, the other thing I did, I've done a lot more research since I started making tinctures, and I have found that everyone recommends you do not use the fresh nettles. I used to get fresh nettles or fresh dandelions or whatever and cram them into a jar and fill it up with vodka, whatever, and go from there. But what I'm doing is, since I'm using a fresh herb, there's a lot of water still in that herb. So it's going to be a watered down version of a tincture. So what I really need to do is dry the nettles first. Dry the dandelions first. And then make a tincture in a smaller amount. So I get the full potency of the herb. Okay? So here what I'm going to do, I want to say, I have been known to make some blends. Again, that was in my days when I wasn't so sure what I was doing. And I think now it is better to do individual. Okay. Now here I have nettles on the back. This is my strained nettles after it is all done. It was probably months I let them go. Another thing is when you're doing fresh herbs, you have to let it sit for months, like months. Get the full potency out of the herb. This activates the metabolism in the kidneys. It's good for your liver. It helps relieve allergy and hay fever symptoms, people that have allergies to the stuff in the spring particularly, and it relieves high blood pressure, so for some people. Nettles does a lot of things for a lot of people, and I find nettles is something that I really love to use, so I have nettles all the time in every form. I use nettles in incense, I use nettles in tinctures, I use nettles in tea. I cook with nettles, which they're fantastic. Okay? Dandelion, same thing with dandelion. Dandelion is good for digestive and liver tonic. It helps alleviate arthritic problems, which both my husband and I suffer from. And if you combine this with elderflower, it's good to alleviate hay fever symptoms, I think. It's what my research tells me. Again, I'm not going to diagnose. But that means I should have an elderflower tincture too. I can use tincture of dandelion and a tincture of elderflower if I want to work on hay fever symptoms. If I want to just work on arthritis, I only need, you see, the dandelion. The other reason I say that is this. There are a lot of herbs that even though it's good for you, it's good for you to ingest, it's not good for somebody else. Some herbs are known to cause, in women who are pregnant, premature contractions of the uterus, which would happen there would result in a miscarriage. So that's not a good thing. So even though it might be healthy for me to use that herb, not being pregnant, it would be horrible for a pregnant woman to use that herb. This is another one. I'm using here red clover. I'm making this tincture just for me. And I've just got this little pint jar. And I'm going to fill it about halfway full. Because when the herbs are dry, they're going to, once I add in my case it's going to be vodka, it could be also cider, but I add vodka. They're going to hydrate, the herbs are going to hydrate and they're going to expand and take up more room, so you can't fill it. But I can get a good half, in there. And this is the other reason I say, this is for me. This is absolutely not for my husband. It's for women. This is a good, that's probably good, maybe a little more. Red clover is really good for, that's good. Red clover is really good for circulation and helping to prevent osteoporosis, which is a concern for me because I am postmenopausal, so I have, it's a concern for me at my age that I would want to guard against developing osteoporosis. It helps lower bad cholesterol, which seems like a good thing, and my husband could benefit from that, so I would think, oh, well, maybe he might do that. It also might lower high blood pressure. Well, first of all, my husband tends toward low blood pressure, so that would not be the best. But the worst thing about this for my husband is kind of sort of a bleeder. Not a bleeder, but he bleeds easily, and it takes him a long time to get the blood stopped. He has trouble clotting. His blood is very thin. And red clover has a substance called coumarin in it. When the herb is dried, that coumarin converts to dicoumarol. sort of a lot of science, but that is a known blood thinner. So for me to give something like this to my husband would be devastating, really. He already has a little trouble with clotting of his blood, getting his blood to stop if he just creeps himself or whatever. He has issues with bleeding. This would be devastating to give him something like this. And I would never think of that. You know, most of us would never think of that. So this is why I also say, absolutely please do your research. Please do your research. Okay, now this has not been in a jar yet, so I'm just sticking the paper back in the bag so I remember this is red clover, so I get it in a proper container. Okay, so while we were doing this, also I want to say that I have the, in the saucepan I have the lemongrass and I have the 6 cups of water and the sugar in there, and I let it simmer for a while, and then I added the 2 tea bags of the green tea, which letting that simmer for a while, and then I'm going to turn it off and let that cool. After it cools, I'm going to add a little bit of lime juice, and then when it's really completely cool, I'm going to serve that over some ice. So I hope to, let me go just a minute to turn that off, and then I'm going to make this. Right back. I'm back. So after you add your dried herb, now remember again, you can use fresh, but if you use fresh, you're going to fill this jar to the top. It's not going to expand. And remember, you're going to have a little bit of a watered down tincture as the herb, first of all, releases its water. So if you have a chance, give it a chance to dry first. Before making your tincture, you'll be happier. You'll get a bit of quality tincture. It's not always possible, so if you can't, you can't. And then I'm going to fill with vodka to the very top. And if you can't use vodka, you don't want to use vodka, you don't choose to, you can use some kind of cider. Remember, organic being the best. And if you're going to use apple cider, a nice organic apple cider with a live culture in it, like Bragg's, is really wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to put this in first. Try to get this wet a little bit first. Put the lid on, and then I'm going to try to get this all wet first. Remember, I said it's going to increase a little bit. See, you can already see it start. Now, when you're making tinctures, you also want to, I want to probably just add to here, because I want to give it room to expand. You check it all the time, and we're going to be coming back and shaking this all the time. And for this, I'm going to leave for the minimum of 1 month. There we go. Before I strain it, if I were using fresh herbs, it's going to be, I'm talking 5 or 6 months. But it never hurts to leave it longer. I have some that I've left really a long time. I'm almost embarrassed to say how long, but they worked fine. Okay? So anyway, there we go. All about brewing. I'm going to label this, I'm going to date this, I'm going to put it in my window. I have my my lemongrass tea turning off and cooling, and I will show you at the very end of this video. I'll show you that on the how it looks on ice and tell you what it tastes like, okay? So I'll be back. Okay, boy, I hope this isn't too long once I ended it. I wanted to point out one more thing about the tincture. In the beginning, when you're letting it brew, steep, you want to keep it in maybe in the sun to get it to go a little quicker, or at least in a well-lit area. A kind of a warm area is good. But once you have finished it, and of course also if it needs to be topped off, top it off. You don't want to have herb stuff above the liquid if you can help it. But once you have strained it and it's ready to use, you want to put it in dark glass, and keep it like in a cupboard out of the sun, because then it'll last a really long time. And label it really well. And this should be It should have the year on it, and I do not have the year on it, but do it in different size bottles. Most people transfer it into smaller bottles, even still, the little dropper bottles. We do not, because we take it by the spoon. When we take tincture, we take it by the spoon rather than drops. A lot of people take it under the tongue, drops under the tongue. Rather than counting drops, we just take it by the spoon. Little spoon. No big deal. Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. So today we did the peppermint hibiscus flower tea. We did that first. We did the chamomile peppermint with the nettles, the stinky nettles, and the rose and the lavender flower. We did this, which is meant to go, it's not quite cool yet, cool enough, but it's getting pretty cool, to go into the refrigerator. I'm going to use that for an iced tea. Then finally we did the lemongrass tea, which again we have here on ice. And I did add, I did the lemongrass, the water, the sugar, raw sugar, with the green tea. Remember I did the green tea? Simmer that, let it cool, added some lime juice, and I'm serving it with ice, and I put it in a slice of lime to see how that goes. I'll taste it and see. Okay, that's what I love. I really love that. The combination of green tea and lemongrass is such a beautiful combination. And the lime just gives it a little bit of another note. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And then of course we have our tincture that I did a red clover. So anyway, that was B for Brew. More than you ever wanted to know about tea, probably. But anyway, I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying to keep up with the challenge. I'm determined to keep up with the Facebook, YouTube Pagan Challenge that is on Facebook with the ABCs of Paganism. And this was B again for Brewery. Thank you for coming to my channel and watching. I am the Good Wife, and I wish you blessings.